Good evening, everyone. Let me welcome all my viewers once again today on Heart Mitra. It's always a pleasure to be connecting with you for all these live programs where we directly talk to you and try and answer the questions which you have in mind. As you are all aware, Heart Mitra is created for all of you, and not only we post information on a daily basis, which can keep you updated about your good cardiovascular health, but also for you, we invite leading cardiologists from across the country who can talk to you directly as a friend and answer the queries you have. Today, I am very glad to welcome Dr. Arindam Pandey from the city of Kolkata. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So we keep on getting a lot of queries from our audiences and from the follower base, and a lot of them want to understand about the healthy nutrition and how good it is, how important it is for a healthy heart. What should be the key components of a healthy nutrition? And today we will use expertise of Dr. Arindam on that. However, before I start asking your questions, let me introduce him to you formally. After doing his super specialized training in the field of cardiology in 2014 from Kolkata, he is serving his patients for last 10 years. And during this time in his studies and last 10 years, he has published more than 60 research articles in national and international journals. Also, he has 13 chapters in the books and many awards to his credit. Currently, he is working as senior consultant and interventional cardiologist at Medica Super Speciality Hospital in Kolkata. Straight away, sir, let me hand it over to you, set the context on this topic, and we will take in the questions of the audiences.
Sure. So it's really a pleasure for me to be participating in this event and be part of the fantastic thing which is known as Heart Mitra. So today we'll be discussing on lifestyle modification, which actually will help you so that you don't need to come to a person like me. So that is in fact better approach, or this Chinese proverb goes like there are good doctors, better doctors, and bad doctors. We are actually bad doctors because we are doing angioplasty and all. We are treating complications. So good doctors are the doctors who actually can treat the disease, and better or best doctors are people who can actually prevent the occurrence of disease, and that is only possible by modification of lifestyle. So very important to understand the role of lifestyle modification. They are very difficult to follow sometimes, but if you can do that, then we have seen majority of the lifestyle diseases, say for example blood pressure, blood sugar, cardiovascular diseases, cerebrovascular diseases can actually be prevented. And this is not my speech, my talk. If we see the long-term data, Framingham Heart trial, one of the very important cohort study, which has showed that if you can take care of your modifiable risk factor, almost 90 to 95% of the cardiovascular disease can actually be prevented, including events, heart attack. So with that note, let us start the ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for setting this context. And as you mentioned, that lifestyle measures are so very important, not only to prevent the heart disease, but also at the same time, if someone is suffering with the heart disease, then also to recover fast or to manage it well. Sir, one of the important pillars of the lifestyle modifications is the diet management and healthy nutrition. Now, to begin with, if I may ask you that why it is so important, and can you also explain that how what we eat directly has an impact on our heart and blood vessels? Dr. Arindam, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dr. Arindam? Okay, I think he has some network issues. So meanwhile, he comes back. I'm sure he will be back in a few moments. But till that time, what he mentioned was very very important. He highlighted the importance of lifestyle measures, and of course, we all know that diet becomes one of the important pillars of the lifestyle measures. So since you are back, let me if I can start by asking you that what role diet plays or healthy nutrition plays in management of cardiovascular health, and can you explain that what we eat, how it actually goes and impacts our heart and the blood vessels?
So basically, what you eat, what you are. So what you are, what you eat. So it's very important to understand the role of diet. As I was mentioning, the modifiable risk factors. So one of the very important aspect is the diet. So diet, there are two aspects. One is the total calorie which you consume. So total calorie is extremely important because if you eat too much, then the excess calorie is going to be, deposited. It will be stored for your future, and it is not going to help you. And what you eat is also important. The type of food. So why it is important? I see it in different way. Let me explain something. So it is known as tryptogen hypothesis. So what is tryptogen hypothesis? Now, why we eat more? Why we eat more after eating some portion of our food? Our appetite actually is, it suffices, and you don't feel any longer that you are very hungry. You should eat more, but you still keep on eating. You know, you still keep on eating. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Carry on. We can hear you. Bring me full screen. Okay, it seems it's raining quite heavily in Kolkata. That the network may not be very good, and he's going off air. Let's just wait for Dr. Pandey to come back, and once he comes back, we will continue to listen to him what he was talking about healthy nutrition.
Sorry, I very sorry because network issue and all. There is some huge rainfall here in Kolkata, so there is some issue in the network as well. So I was talking about tryptogen hypothesis. Why we eat more? So at one point of time when human were actually developed, if you see the natural history of development of human, they used to live in jungle. There was hardly, you know, any mechanism by which they are supposed to have a continuous source of food. That means they used to go for, hunting. They used to hunt. They used to catch some hunting. I mean, the animals or birds. They used to eat them. Sometimes they used to eat fruits as well, but there was no concept of cultivation. So if you don't have the concept of cultivation, your food source is not fixed. You're not sure that whether tomorrow you'll get some food or not. So that is why whenever they get something, they used to eat more, and that the extra food is to get stored inside the body. So that was important and at that point. But later on, human becomes civilized. They understood that you can go for cultivation, you can grow your crops, you can also cultivate the trees by which you can have some fixed source of fruits. You can also have some mechanism by which animals you can actually go for preparing domestic animals which you can eat later on. So the food security was developed with due course, so the need of excess eating was no longer there. Now, the thing which we learned 100 years back, 1,000 years back, that got embedded in our genes, and that is why even if hello, am I audible? Yes, yes. Sorry. So even if you even if don't eat too much, your hunger is over by some time, but still you keep that in mind that you may not get food in future, so you keep on eating, and the excess food is actually getting deposited, it is getting stored inside your body. So that creates a lots of problem, and as a result, the excess food, excess calories causing all issues. So it's very important. I give this advice to many of my patients that after eating 50 to 70 or at best 80% of your food which you are supposed to consume, so your hunger is gone. You don't need to eat anymore. You eat it because of your habit. So you should stop after eating 80% of your food. So that is the only way you can have some check on your total calorie consumption, and that is the only way you can actually take care of your body weight by food. Yes, types of foods are also important, but this is how you actually can keep a check of your food total intake, and that will be translated to benefit in long term.
Yeah. So thank you so very much. I think for setting the whole context and giving the historical context as well. I hope you are able to hear me, sir. Can you hear me? No.
Being able to hear. Okay.
Okay. You're back. I hope you are able to hear me.
Yeah, yeah, clearly, loud and clear.
So I was saying that you shared the historical context with us that how and this our genes have been developed to adopt a particular kind of calorie intake and then survive on that. So in the more modern context, when people hear different things and many of us in our lifestyles we need advice in very big very specifics. So what's your if you can guide us, tell us that for a heart healthy diet, what should be the the key components of that for our viewers, which they clearly listen to you and then follow that.
Yeah, that is very important. So, if I talk in simple terms, then so there are some foods which contain high sodium. There are some food which contain high potassium. So heart healthy lifestyle, heart healthy diet should be a diet which will keep your blood sugar, blood pressure under control, also your body weight under control. So as you know, the food which has plenty of potassium, if your kidney is working nicely, that in long run will rise to a situation when your blood pressure will be under control, whereas the high sodium containing food, say for example the processed food which is very easily available nowadays in shopping malls, so similarly, any kind of chutney, any very sour food which we need to consume with some sort of salt, extra salt, that is not good. So first thing will be avoid taking extra salt and heavily salted food, preserved food, processed food. Try to take food which has more potassium. So which are those kind of food? All the fruits, they have plenty of potassium. So green coconut water is very good. They have good amount of potassium, and also the green leafy vegetable. So vegetable, which vegetable? Many people ask which vegetable. So any vegetable. It's not about which vegetable. I always say it's like rainbow salad. Go for rainbow salad. Am I audible?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So rainbow salad. So colorful salad. That means uh, mostly it is green leafy vegetable, but you can also go for colorful vegetables, seasonal fruits. That should be good portion of your food. You should try to restrict the carbohydrate. What are the foods which contains carbohydrate? It is rice, it is all sweets, and it is the
you know, potato. Now, this carbohydrate, which I just mentioned, they have all high glycemic index. So anything which is having a very high glycemic index, very bad for your health, because even if you are not diabetic, after consuming them, within 2 hours you will behave like a diabetic, because they have very high possibility of increasing your blood sugar immediately after consumption. And this high blood sugar, for the matter of discussion, for 2 to 3 hours will give rise to a milieu inside your body that you will behave like a diabetic, and you will be having all the long term complication of the diabetic. So try to avoid high glycemic index carbohydrate. If you at all want to take carbohydrate, take always complex carbohydrate. So complex carbohydrate, what are the example? You can take corn. Corn is a very good example of complex carbohydrate. Nowadays, from the government also, there is promotion regarding chota anaj. At one point of time, we used to think that taking that actually lowers your status in the in your society. But now even government promotes, you can actually go for jowar, bajra, those kind of chota anaj that are, they are not only complex carbohydrate, they are also very rich in minerals, very good source of very good source of iron. So you should start consuming them along with good portion of fruits. So that is how. Regarding protein, protein is also important. Fish is a very good source of protein. If you are non-veg person, you should go ahead with taking fish, no issue. You can take both the types of fish which comes for river as well as sea. You can also you know if you are a vegetarian, then you should go for the say for example the protein rich thing, because protein is essential. If you don't eat animal product, then you should at least try to consume dairy product. Dairy products are very good. You can try to consume the pulses. All the pulses, they have good protein content, so that should actually compensate your requirement of protein. That is how we call ideal diet plan should be like this.
Okay, so I think here we heard Dr. Pandey speaking about that how extra salt should be avoided, how you should be taking care of the carbohydrates and they should be in moderation. I hope you're able to hear me, sir.
Yes, you are very nicely audible.
I think, sir, two things I will request your attention. If you can guide our viewers on, which are very commonly asked, is on uh, the oil intake, and what kind of oil should be used and how much should be the quantity of that oil. And secondly, I think people also are very worried about the fat intake, because they keep on hearing and they want to understand, like, what kind of fats are good for body and what kind of fats are not. So if you can dwell on these two things also, it will be great.
So it's very important. So first of all, regarding oil, I should clear one thing, that you should not reuse the oil. One of the biggest difference between the homemade food and the food which you actually take from restaurant and hotels. In restaurant and hotel, they actually reuse the oil, which is extremely bad. And you should never use the oil. That is very important. Oil, any good oil also, you should try to consume as less as possible. And very importantly, the temperature at which you are cooking the food is equally important. If you cook a for preparing your food, you are cooking at a very high temperature, then if you even if you are using very good quality oil, that gets denatured. Say for example, what is the ideal oil? Ideal, one of the very good example of oil is olive oil, because very high content of monounsaturated fatty acid. But you'll be surprised to know the type of olive oil, because ideally it has to be extra virgin olive oil, because the processing, during processing, if you raise the temperature too much, then all the good value of olive oil will go up. So you should ideally take extra virgin olive oil, and that has a you know temperature, we call it breaking temperature, the cooking temperature, which at which it actually gets denatured, which is very low. So you should try to cook with this kind of oil at a very low temperature. It will take long time to cook your food, but that is very ideal. And what else? Because olive oil, everybody will say, is very expensive, very costly. It's not produced very in abundance in our country. So you can take simply the the mustard oil, if you compare mustard oil, the composition of mustard oil is very similar with olive oil. It has very high content of monounsaturated fatty acid. There was some issue with one of the impurity of the mustard oil. Because of that, in some of the countries it is banned, but I'll not go into detail. But what I can say, mustard oil, the composition was very good, and in fact, you can use mustard oil. Try to use the kachigani. I mean, can you, if you can have organic kind of mustard oil, if you can borrow it from village dweller, that is very good. Or you can use any other oil, but try to reduce the temperature. The amount should be as low. You should try to develop the cooking, methods, cooking technique, because nowadays we say if you deep fry the things will be very bad. Deep fry is not advocated. So what you are supposed to, so deep frying is not advocated. You can use newer modality, newer methods of cooking. Say for example, air frying, steaming. So this is how we should actually adapt, and they will require very minimal amount of oil, which is very essential.
Okay. All right. So I think here Dr. Pandey has helped us understand the whole comprehensive, things regarding to healthy nutrition, right from, that how we should be using the or managing the intake of salt and, the free sugars, carbohydrates, and then he has now highlighted that what's the right way to, use the oils and the fats as well. Sir, anything, there are a lot of, questions which we get that what's the role of pure hydration? Let's say, is there anything, water intake, is it somewhere related to good cardiovascular health? So, or
Yeah,
let's
it's
say,
very
there are
important.
questions around.
Very, very, very important. Extremely important. So water is very important. We call water, another name of water is life. Now the issue is if you have serious cardiac issues, say for example heart failure, your heart pumping is low, or say for if you're having kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, so your kidney function is not appropriate. So your total water intake should be restricted. But if you don't have those issues, I have seen many people, they keep on drinking too much of water, but problem is the same water has to be excreted through kidney only. So you should have an appropriate idea what is the ideal amount of water. So I can give a very simple formula. So every 30 kilo, for your every 30 kilo body weight, you should consume 1 liter water per day, and preferably try to consume the water within the daytime so that you don't need to go to toilet repeatedly at your sleep, so your sleep becomes disturbed. So 30 every 30 kilo, if you are 60 kilo person, then you should consume at least 2 liters of water, which is a very very appropriate. You should not be keep on taking 4 5 liter water, because that will keep your heart fresh, kidney fresh. That is all myth, which is not having any basis. So this is a very easy formula to go ahead. And if you have serious cardiac issue, low heart pumping, heart failure, or kidney problem, then you may further need to reduce the water intake. You should consult your physician regarding that.
Okay. So if someone is having heart failure or let's say kidney related issues, then is it patient to patient? It will vary that how much water intake has to happen, or there is
Yes, yes,
some general
yes.
guidance which you
No,
can
no,
say.
it will vary. It will vary according to the status of the patient. Say, for example, someone having heart pumping of only 30%, someone is having heart pumping of 45%. So it may not be similar. How their, hydration status, what is the fluid volume of the body, what is the kidney function. So it will depend. So for
Sure.
those kind of issue, ideally the physician will give you a more appropriate idea how much is the water you should intake.
Okay. So basically, I know the message is very clear for our viewers as far as hydration is, with respect to hydration, he mentions it's very important water intake for every 30 kgs of weight, 1 liter of water. So I think most of us will require 2 to 3 liters of water in a day minimum, and also take it most of it during the daytime. And when if you are having associated problems like heart failure or any damage to kidney, then don't go by hearsay or don't do any guesswork. Talk to your doctor, and your cardiologist or your nephrologist will be able to then help you decide what should be the water intake. Sir, since we're also running out of time, I'll take one final question on this, and we get a lot of queries around since weight is associated also with good cardiovascular health, and people relate diet and nutrition with weight, and we hear a lot of questions around that how good is intermittent fasting, keto diets, crash diets, which are the latest things which are coming in. So any guidance which you would like to give us, does these things really reduce weight? Is it good for cardiovascular health, or it may be counterproductive as well?
So yeah, it's very important and relevant. Yes, obesity one of the important epidemic nowadays, which is responsible for so high prevalence of diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. But you'll be surprised to know, obese person, if he lands up in requirement of hemodialysis, they live longer. So there is no uniform thing. So weight is something. Again, there should be an ideal weight. Too low weight or too heavy weight is bad. So you should calculate your BMI or body mass index, which is a more scientific way of estimating your body weight. So ideal BMI in our context, say for example, if we are considering India in our country, so it is 18 to 23. Grossly, I'm saying 18 to 23 is the ideal BMI. How do you calculate BMI? Your body weight in kg divided by your height. You need to square that. So body weight in kg divided by height in meter square. So that is your BMI. It should be ideally within 18 to 23. If it is more than 25, you are overweight. If it is more than 30, it is obesity. If it is more than 35, you are morbid obesity. Morbid obesity is very bad situation. You may need surgical intervention to reduce your body weight if you have reached up to that level. Again, if your BMI is less than 18, you will be considered underweight or low nutrition. So it is requirement of balance. And how do you, if you are obese, how do you get it? Yes, most important, you should try to increase your activity. Food intake is good, intermittent fasting, keto diet, all those things are there, but they always should be you know followed with a supervision. You should consult a dietitian or a nutrition expert. Just you cannot go and do intermittent fasting. I have seen many people who do this kind of intermittent fasting. So I can tell you, one of my patients, he started having only dinner. So only dinner followed by intermittent fasting. Throughout the day he used to take only some fruits, and he resulted in a gastric ulcer, and he landed up into hospital. So there is a way of doing it. Keto diet, again, I'd like to, intermittent fasting, some of the clinical study has shown that it can actually good to reduce your body weight in some form. It can also control the sugar status of your body, but diabetes also to some extent in early diabetes, it can reverse it. But again, it should be supervised, extremely supervised, and your nutrition should not be ignored, the requirement. Sorry. So keto diet. Just a one few words regarding keto diet. Keto diet, you are supposed to take only and kind of animal food. So animal food, that means either you are taking very heavy animal food. So protein and fat. You are reducing carbohydrate to huge extent, which is not a very physiological. There are a lot of limitation. There have been researches which has shown that keto diet may not be a very ideal thing to do. But if you really want to go ahead, you should consult your dietitian or nutritional expert.
Okay. So, as Dr. Pandey mentions, all these things do have a relevance, whether it is keto diets or intermittent fasting, but you should be doing this in consultation with your doctor and under supervision. I just don't do it because it may has some productive impact as well, if not done in a good way. Well, I think we must thank Dr. Arindam Pandey here. He has been very kind. So you helped us, run through this whole nutrition paradigm in a very comprehensive way, right from that what should be the key components of the diet, and then how fats, oils should be measured, and how salt intake and carbohydrates should be taken care of, to some of the more complex questions. I must thank you for this. But before we conclude this program, I must hand it back to you that since we had a little bit of a today due to network issues. So if there is anything which is important which we have missed to cover and you still want to emphasize in the end for the viewers, please do that. Or if there are some key summary points which you want to mention.
Yeah. So I want to finish with this note. Japanese population, they have one of the best diet plan of the world. So Japanese people, their diet plan, because they also live for very long. Their average expectancy in some of the part of the Japan is almost 100 years. So it's very important to live long, but it is also very important to live healthy long life. So sometimes there is some proverb in Japanese language. Say for example, I'll give you one of them is harahachibu. Harahachibu is something that means you stop eating after 80% of your food intake is over. So this is a very simple thing. You know, it came for so long. So all the modern healthcare issues are due to overeating. So it's very important to what you eat, the types of food, but the amount of food is extremely important. At any cost, you should have a check of your food amount. And if you can do that, in most of the cases, you will have a very, very healthy life. So with that, I'd like to stop here and we'll
Thank
soon
you.
meet in future.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ridham. And I think he started from giving us the larger context of the thrifty genes, and he has now also told us the concept which the Japanese follow, and then how do they stop at 80% of the meal. And in between, I think he gave us the finer nuggets of planning a good, healthy nutrition for all of us, and especially if we have a cardiovascular disease. So with this, we must thank Dr. Ridham Pandey for joining us today. I must thank all our viewers also who would have watched us live or who would be watching this program later on. If to our viewers, if you have anyone in your friend circle or in your family who is having a cardiovascular issue and wants some guidance around good nutrition, you can simply share the link of this program with them, and this conversation can be very, very helpful for them. And if you need more information and you live somewhere in Bengal or in the eastern part of our country, you can always go and meet Dr. Arindam Pandey at Medica Super Speciality Hospital in Kolkata. But if you are listening us anywhere else across the country, please go and meet your nearest cardiologist and take the advice from him for these issues. Thank you so very much and good night, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Pandey. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev Mehra and Heart Mitra. Whole concept is wonderful. You are doing a fabulous job.